Well, hello and good Friday there, folks. Uh, we got a fun drink today. I'm super excited. And I want to thank my friend Christy Larson for the idea. I probably would have not thought of this, uh, but it's an amazing drink. In fact, I like this. I've only been making this drink for maybe 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half. I like it so much that I decided to make an entire drink making exercise out of it. Super easy to make, super yummy. It's great. It's light. It's a perfect summer drink. Um, and it's all because of Christy Larson. So thank you, Christy Larson, for the suggestion. Uh, I know, Laura, you want me to make a sidecar really bad, and we'll probably get there. But this drink was awesome. And so one of the themes for this week, I think, is Casablanca. And I'll tell you just in a little bit. But Casablanca is one of my favorite movies of all time. Casablanca, Lawrence Arabia, Star Wars, Caddyshack. I know those seem kind of disjointed, but those are probably like my favorite movies ever. In fact, Casablanca is hanging in my man room. Uh, it's one of the movie posters that I own. Really love it. I think it's a classic. I love those classic films. And today's drink, the French 75, actually gets its origins from that film, from Casablanca. Uh, in fact, the French 75 is probably one of the best known movie drinks of all time. Uh, Number one would be the Vesper by a long shot, the Vesper Martini, the Bon Martini. But this has to rank in the top five of all time movie drinks. And it became famous in Casablanca, right? So if you guys are Casablanca fans, you may not remember the drink particularly, but you'll remember the scene when Yvonne goes with her Nazi suitor into Rick's and bellies up to the bar, and he orders, the Nazi bastard orders a French 75, right? And then it's just kind of left the imagination what a French 75 is. But we're going to make one today. Like I said, good drink. And of course, after that, Yvonne elicits from Rick, I think, one of the most famous lines in American Cinerama, which is, and you guys can repeat it with me, of all the gin joints and all the towns in all the world, she had to walk into mine. Actually, I think it's either she had to walk into mine or she had to walk into this one. I think it's she had to walk into mine. A lot of folks who would probably say, "Play it again, Sam's," the most famous line from that movie, or "This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship at the end." But I think that line is just classic. And I just love Casablanca, and I love this drink. Interesting, though, there is some question as to who invented the drink. But the one that I like, the legend that I like on who invented the drink, is actually comes from World War One. And there was a World War One flying ace. His name was Raoul Lufberry. And Raoul was a Franco-American pilot. He flew most of his missions for the French Air Force, and then flew half of his missions, or the later part of his career, flew for the U.S. Army Air Service before there was an actual Air Force. Dude was a total badass. He was an ace for sure. He had 17 confirmed kills. 16 with the French Air Force, 1 with the U.S. Air Force, and 4 unconfirmed kills with the U.S. Air Force. He ended up actually dying in action in 1918 in World War I, flying for the U.S. Air Force, which obviously is a tragedy, but it's a great story because the story goes is that Raoul was having champagne, and he was so disgusted with the champagne. He's like, "Oh, this stuff's for girls, right? I need a little bit more kick in this, right?" So he invented this drink, which combines champagne and gin. So that's the story that I like about how it was invented. It was invented by a World War I flying ace, whose name was not Snoopy, but instead was Raoul Lufberry. Great story. Another interesting story about Casablanca and the French 75 and how it started. You know, Rick's Cafe, of course, is famous in Casablanca. Unfortunately, it would have been totally decimated and destroyed at the beginning of World War II. In 1942, Eisenhower had a joint operation with the British forces of North Africa. It actually started in Casablanca, and Eisenhower bombed the hell out of it. And so if Rick's would have actually been, there, it would have totally got destroyed at the beginning of World War II, which is a shame, but also kind of poetic if you love the film. So enough about kind of the history and the film and stuff. I obviously love the film. And it's funny, I actually went back into the film and watched it again to pick up where they, talked about the French 75, where it was actually ordered, because I was such a dork about the whole thing. The cool thing about this, super light, super great summer drink. I think you're going to really enjoy this. Super easy to make, really easy to make. Ingredients are super lean, right? We've got some gin, we've got some champagne, we've got some French lemon juice, and we've got our good friend simple syrup. The funny thing about these is you probably drink more than 2 of these bad boys, and you might be kicking down the door calling your wife Ingrid Bergman with these bad boys, because they pack a punch. So let's get to it. French 75. First thing we need is our buddy, the shaker. Okay, we're going to have, like with all our drinks, repeat after me. Every drink we make has at least 2 ounces of booze, and we're going to start right away with gin. So I'm using Beefeaters, London Dry. I've tried this with my house gin with Hadley and Sons. It was really good. Just use your favorite gin. I think that, like in a lot of cases, we talk about the botanicals of the gin and how that would mix with stuff. The champagne kind of overrides some of that. So this is a drink you could probably get away with using not as good of a gin, and it would taste just dandy. But get your favorite gin. So I'm going to pour out 2 ounces of gin into my shaker. 2 ounces of gin. I'm going to use... Now, so I think it's important to note, there are a ton of recipes out there for the French 75. Tons of them. But they all center around those 4 ingredients: gin, sugar, lemon, champagne. This particular recipe is one that I kind of twisted a little bit. I looked at a bunch of different recipes. They all have the same 4 things. And so I made 3 or 4 of them to find the one I like the best. Or find kind of the mix between those 4 that I like the best. And this is it. So 2 ounces of gin. We're going to use 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup. You'll find a lot of recipes out there will call for sugar. I'm just using straight sugar in here. I'm just not a big proponent of using sugar in my drinks because it doesn't mix well. End of story. Like a lot of people rail about my old fashions because they like the sugar cube. I'm sorry, it just doesn't mix as well and doesn't taste as good. So simple syrup all the way. 2 ounces of gin, 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup. We're going to use 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lemon juice. Okay. Got all that in our shaker. Going to add some ice. Okay. And now we're going to shake the bejesus out of it. Never want to get nice and cold. Look at that, especially in the summertime. Oh, that's lovely. Got a nice little glass here. Traditionally, you serve these in a champagne flute. Do what you want to do there. Okay, so we've got our drink. We're pouring it out of our glass. The last thing we add to it is the champagne. Now, for obvious reasons, you do not mix the champagne. You do not mix the champagne with the booze in the mixer. But I'm going to use 2 ounces of champagne. Okay. I'm going to pour that It's awfully bubbly, so you kind of have to wait for it to die down a little bit. I'm going to pour that right in there into that drink. Okay. Some people, I've seen recipes where they fill the top full of champagne. I'm not a big champagne fan. So I'm not a big fan of that. I've seen recipes where the gin to champagne ratio is like 1-3, which I think is ridiculous. More gin is always a good thing in the drink. But that's it. Here's our French 75, right? So we've got 2 ounces of gin, 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lemon juice, shaken, poured out into probably a champagne flute or something like that. I'm just using a regular kind of a poor man's martini glass. And then add another 2 ounces of champagne on top of that. Usually you'd use a lemon slice. I like to do these little peels. It's super easy to do. If you have like a zester, most zesters just have a little zesty part. Find a zester, you can get these at any bar store that have this little kind of notch there. Okay, and it's super easy. All you have to do is kind of scrape along the fruit and it'll pull the rind right off in a nice, beautiful strip like I just showed you. See? Little strip right there. Let's taste this bad boy. That is a lovely drink. My goodness. It's light. It's just sweet enough. You can taste the gin. You can taste the champagne. I don't think I would put any more champagne. I don't think I would put more champagne than gin. I think that's going to ruin the drink. But, you know, like I said, there's a million recipes for the French 75 out there. I think mine's the best, but that's because I like it. 4 things: gin, 2 ounces, lemon juice, 3/4 of an ounce, freshly squeezed, simple syrup, 3/4 of an ounce, champagne, 2 ounces. But you can kind of play with that. You know, I might dial down the simple syrup and the lemon juice maybe a little bit, maybe between 1/2 ounce and 3/4 of an ounce. Depends on how sweet you like it. And then don't forget your garnish, either a lemon slice or a lemon peel. Dude, these are awesome. Man, I like those. Perfect summer drink. So, French 75. Thank you, Christy Larson. That's what we got going this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Go out and watch Casablanca, one of the top films of all time. And, you know, next week we'll think of something else fun. Maybe we'll make that new martini I was thinking about. But we'll do something fun next week. I'll post it in the middle of the week, all the ingredients that you need. In the meantime, have a good weekend. Have a safe weekend. Be safe. Shelter in place. Drink a lot. Whatever you got to do to get around it. But be safe. I'll talk to you next week. And in the meantime, play it again, Sam. Cheers, guys.